Season 1 is almost here. Let's get your Retribution Paladin ready to raid the Voidspire. This guide has one purpose only. The goal here is to provide additional resources to help prepare for a normal and heroic week. These guides should help you be ready ahead of time because all too often, servers come up later than expected, or you might have limited time to actually prepare for raid night. Some of what I recommend here will absolutely change after we get into these raids and play them outside of a testing environment. And also, Blizzard has announced tuning for 4 consecutive weeks here, and you can 100% bet that Ret will be getting some form of buff. If we look back at what Blizzard has done historically, they have tuned up our spender damage and applied flat aura buffs to the spec as a whole. I'd expect something similar this time around, but to be honest, we can't really know for sure. And then also, when they do fix the execution sentence bug, it should shake up our talent choices as well. It's not as big of an impact as I'd like, but I still wanted to note that. And I do want to stress, none of the talent builds I mention here are future-proof, but this is a place to start. I'd also recommend checking out both Warcraft blogs analytics as well as Wowhead just to double check the talent loadouts. And as a reminder, anytime we have class tuning or spell adjustments, our opener and spell priority does have a potential for changing. All the other tips and recommendations I mention here will still be applicable. Just make sure to confirm you're using the right talents for the job. The Voidspire launches on March 17th alongside the Dream Rift for normal and heroic difficulties, with Mythic opening the following week. This guide here will solely focus on the Voidspire, so do check out the channel for other videos on both the Dream Rift and March on Kel'Thuzad. These will be available shortly before each raid releases. And I'll say it again, nothing here is future-proof. And one other quick note before we get started, the footage here was used from some initial beta testing, so some mechanics are slightly different and my UI has changed a fair bit. The footage is a little bit messy, but it's going to at least show you what to expect. So let's get into it. We'll go boss by boss to cover how best to play Retribution for each encounter. We won't cover individual boss mechanics in detail unless they are relevant for Retribution specifically, and I will note that all the builds recommended here are currently using the 30-second Radiant Glory build. With current tuning, our spenders are dealing comparatively low damage, and the majority of our damage now is really consolidated into 3 globals: Wake of Ashes, Divine Toll, and Hammer of Light. Outside of that, our damage is very low, so this build does double down on creating that combo as frequently as possible. And I want to say this again, if something changes with tuning, recommendations will change. So let's hop to it. Imperator Averzian is the first boss of the Voidspire, and this one seems fun enough, at least from the initial beta testing. And for this encounter, we are going to play a modified single target build, and there are enough opportunities here to use our AoE. So we are going to drop points in both Judgment of Justice and Heart of the Crusader, and pick up points in Tempest of the Lightbringer, Blade of Vengeance, and Blessed Champion. And at this point, I don't think we'll hold our cooldowns for when additional ads spawn, so at least on normal or heroic, send your cooldowns as soon as they are available. Defensives can be used liberally here, so Divine Protection should be used every time you soak Umbral Collapse. You should be able to detonate the entirety of Shield of Vengeance directly onto the boss, so be aware of your positioning. Divine Shield is best used during Void Rupture. After you've removed 2 Void Shapers from the encounter, Void Rays are going to shoot out from Void Portals. Hopefully your tank's positioned well, but if not, you can use Divine Shield and get away with standing in those Void Rays. When the group of Void Maws spawn, you're going to want to maximize your Light Within damage and reposition to cleave the cone effect from your Apex talent onto the Void Maws. It's a little clunky to do, but you should get used to it with a bit of time. And this does so much damage, we're likely going to do this on later bosses as well, so do get comfortable with this type of positioning. Vorasius is likely the second encounter you're going to fight in the Voidspire, and this fight is mostly single target. We will have a few waves of blister creeps, but there's really not a need to take any AoE related talents, at least on lower difficulties. So we're going to take the full single target build shown here. Defensives should be used during Parasite Expulsion, At least on the beta, this did a ton of damage, and we should have defensives available for every single cast of it. And a special note here with defensives. Blessing of Protection can be used to immune the crystalline eruption rings. There shouldn't be a major need to use it here, but you do have the option to if you end up in a bad spot. If you are fixated by a blister creep, take it to the crystal walls and give it a good stun once it's in position. It should ideally die after it makes it to the wall, and it'll be in a good spot. There isn't really a ton going on during this fight, so make your focus on using your defensives properly and positioning well for the rings. On beta, I found the best way to handle the rings is just start on the outside of the first ring and then step directly into ring 1 after it dissipates. This should limit movement and allow you to be grouped up for effective healing. Our third encounter is Fallen King Salhadaar. It is almost nothing like the previous encounter from Manaforge Omega, but it seems to be a fun one. For retribution, this is going to be a single target encounter because we have no ability to hit multiple targets at range. You are likely to sit on the boss this entire time and never swap to the orbs on lower difficulties. And because of that, you'll want to run this single target build. I do want to put a disclaimer here though, is if for some reason the orbs are getting out of control and you need to switch, and there is some cleave to do, take some additional AoE as needed, or just stay with your single target and take the movement loss and run to the orb and kill it. Ultimately, play what's best for your team here, but I'd like to think at the very least for normal, you're going to stay on the boss, and for heroic, you might swap every now and again if things get a little tight. Take special care to pay attention for the Shattering Twilight cast on your tank. It's going to erupt spikes from the ground, and if your tank is positioned poorly, it will go directly through melee. And as I mentioned earlier, if the concentrated void orbs are getting too close to the boss, do make sure you swap to them. It's a problem if they connect with the boss. You'll primarily want to use defensives during Cosmic Unraveling. Salhadaar is going to do a spin around with some void beams and pulse some damage. Help your healers out here. Using Divine Protection and Shield of Vengeance will guarantee you get the damage from this ability applied directly to the boss, as well as giving your healers an easier time. The fourth encounter here is Vaelgor Ezzorak. So this was one of the cooler bosses from testing, but I think Ret may struggle to compete here. I'm going to run the single target build for this encounter, but for some reason if we need some more AoE, we might opt into more, but I don't think so. There are multiple times during the fight when we're going to have a mass spawn of enemies, but we don't have any meaningful talents to pick up to help us deal with this effectively. When possible, get a good Wake of Ashes or Hammer of Light cast onto any of the void orbs, and also make sure to aim your cone from Light Within onto the same void orbs when possible. We're going to be running Divine Hammer, so do make sure that you're grouped up around the most enemies possible just to get the most benefit when that's active. I'm also going to recommend you pick up Blinding Light here too. Your first priority is going to be doing damage to these orbs. However, Blinding Light can provide a good AoE interrupt on the casts if needed. Defensives can be used during Midnight Flames, part of the intermission. The dragons are going to fly up into the sky, and you're going to need to put damage into a Manifestation of Midnight. While the damage taken here is not overly high, it should provide a consistent way to proc your Shield of Vengeance. There may be opportunities to use your defensives earlier in the fight if the damage patterns are high enough, but during testing, at least on normal and heroic, nothing really merited using it early. Divine Shield is best used if you get targeted by Dread Breath, and on completion of this cast, you're going to be feared and take a bit of damage. If you Divine Shield it, you're going to negate the fear entirely as well as the damage. This should allow you to have uninterrupted uptime on the boss. The next boss up is boss number 5, the Lightblinded Vanguard. Talent build for this boss is a bit tricky. It's technically a council fight and there are moments when you want to be attacking 3 enemies, but there's going to be a decent amount of time when it's only going to be 2 targets in ranged. So I'm going to recommend a full AoE build here. There was enough time on beta when we had uptime on 3 targets where it should offset any single target loss. You'll want to target the most central of the 3 enemies, so our cleave actually hits all 3 targets. We did a terrible job on positioning during beta, but with more practice, your tank should get a nice tight grouping of these enemies where possible. Hammer of Light and Blade of Vengeance have very small hitboxes, so you're going to have better results when those bosses are tightly grouped. Divine Protection and Shield of Vengeance are best used on the Execution Sentence hit, or if targeted by Avenger's Shield. On lower difficulties, the Avenger's Shield cast didn't really do a ton of damage, but on higher difficulties, it definitely did. The damage taken from Execution Sentence cannot be immuned. Yep, it cannot be immuned, and nothing else in this encounter actually hits hard, at least on normal and heroic. You can Divine Shield the hammers that spiral out from the Execution Sentence cast, but in Mythic testing, a lot of the groups just stacked up all the debuffs in one place, practically negating having to deal with the hammer spirals. It'll be a little bit until we see what the final strat is going to be, but feel free to move your defensives around as needed. Play it by ear. And so the final boss of the Voidspire is the Crown of the Cosmos encounter. There was no raid testing for this, so it's difficult to make a build recommendation. Based on the Dungeon Journal, Phase 1 seems to be mostly single target, but there are these things called Undying Sentinels, and it's sort of unclear how healthy these enemies will be and if more than one are going to be active at one time. In addition, there are also things called Void Spawn, but yet again, we're unclear on the frequency, and I'm not sure how many of these are going to be there. So a safe bet is going to be start with a single target build, and then add in AoE talents if the fight requires it. So here's the single target talent build you can use, but if you're going to use AoE, you can pick up these circled points. And as I mentioned earlier, check out Warcraft Logs Analytics before you raid for the week to confirm what people have used on this encounter. It's not perfect, but checking what other people have done is always helpful. And I would recommend doing this for every boss here that I've mentioned. These are all recommendations based on the information I have as of today. Things will change. But this guide, it's going to point you in the right direction, but Blizzard's tuning can and will change the options we might select here. So do remember that. That's the quick review of Voidspire. And after every encounter we kill on Mythic, I'm going to get a full guide out detailing how this should be played on Mythic as a Retribution Paladin. But in the meantime, the Jesir TV Discord has up-to-date recommended talents, tips and tricks, and other resources. And I'll continue to update these the more we progress through the raid. And if you haven't yet, do make sure to join using the link below in the description. Also, a big thank you to our patrons. They really make this channel possible. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the best place to do it is Patreon. As a member, you gain access to things like log reviews, UI support, blog updates, Jesir Radio, and more. Take a look. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you in Season 1.